Welcome to our mood board. This is our focus group. We've created a mood board for this focus group so we can talk about the main subject, which is design. So we've got all these other things, so legal issues, responsibilities, qualifications, sort of like
legal issues,
stuff.
moral issues.
Yeah, ethical considerations and social media. So first thing I think we should talk about is legal issues. So do you want to...
There's a lot of kind of issues when you're in this kind of market with the whole design or graphic design kind of area. There's a lot of things you'll have to worry about. Now, trademarks and copywriting and stuff like that, that's one of the big kind of like issues you have with designing nowadays, because especially most of it, because design's now online, quite a lot of it. It's easily taken, stolen, and it's can be taken and made as someone else's when you've made it yourself. So copywriting is quite a big issue. You need to make sure you have everything together, saying that you've owned that work that you've produced. Trademarks as well, you can often put your name on your work or something like that. Now that most of the time doesn't stop someone from, say, copywriting your work, or
you could watermark
you
your
could
work.
watermark your work, which means that there'll be like your name written on the picture if someone tries to copy it, which is like, it's better now.
Like in a transparent type sort of text,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like your name or your company on there, like just repeated over and over again, so nobody can take this photo without you sending them the original.
And I think it's better now. Like before that, obviously it was quite easy for people to do that.
Just take your ideas,
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about patience, Hannah? Patience and like
Having patience with
customers and stuff.
Yeah.
Like commissioners will also like have like specific wants they have for like what you want to do, and if they might get a little bit like picky because it's but you've got to comply to what they want.
Yeah, definitely, like adapt to what they want. Even like they can be not very nice, they can be quite rude, but at the end of the day you've got to figure out,
you've got
to
to
make sure you get
it.
paid, and you've got to look past it. So having patience, like you said, is good, definitely.
And again, with the whole patience thing, it does take time to create these. Say if you're creating like a game background or a logo or something, it takes a lot of time to get it perfect or what the client wants. You might be like picky, like you said, so it does take time to get the final product, so you'll have a lot of patience to wait it out, and because it's quite tedious work most of the time to try and get it perfect and, you know, equal and stuff like that, so it does take some time management as well.
Yeah, definitely.
There's also financial issues when it comes to every job, but with graphics design, if you're a self-employed worker, you're not always going to have clients, so there's going to be those parts where you won't always get paid.
Definitely. There will be times where if it's not done to their standard, they will turn around and say, I don't care how much work you've done, you're not getting paid. And they won't pay up front, they'll always pay in bits, or they'll pay at the end.
Yeah, so it's quite unreliable, like any self-employed job, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
That's why I think because you can also go through the company side, can't you?
Yeah, and
Where,
industries and stuff,
So if you work for, say, a big company doing, or even a small one, doing logo designs, business kind of, just anything to do with it, because everything you see needs to be designed by someone, don't they? So I think with that, it's kind of like a guaranteed pay. It may not be, you'd have to work your way up to get into paid decently, but once you do, you can obviously get paid quite a bit of money for it.
Definitely.
And you'd have guaranteed job and, you know, possible paid holidays if you needed.
Definitely. I think social media, big part in this. You've got your like your Facebook and your Instagram and your Twitter and stuff, and that's like one of the main ways of advertising your business. You won't see businesses really advertised in like the newspaper and stuff as much anymore. You won't see it on like billboards. You won't see stuff like that, or on like outside shops. It's all online. That's sort of the way that the world's moving now. Everyone's on their phones, constantly in their computers, and that's how they'll find out. So if you can advertise properly your business, or say you were doing, say you were like in sort of design within advertisements, with like an industry, like a
Mhm.
company. So for example, Ubisoft, the games company,
Yeah, they'd have social media as well, wouldn't they? So you
Yeah.
could possibly be in charge of that.
you could be a social media
Promotion.
manager, which is, it doesn't sound like it has much to do with design, but it does. You've got to make sure that everything that's going onto that is suited to it and tailored to whatever the topic is that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So you want to have, say you're trying to promote the game, you want to promote it and make sure that the design of the picture or whatever it is, or teaser that you're showing
Mhm.
off, is slick. It's a really good design, and that's usually what is eye catching about
Mhm.
advertisements.
Yeah, but social media has a lot of legal and ethical issues, and you need to be very careful when considering risk assessments and stuff, because obviously in social media is such a big and vast thing at the moment that anyone can access, and it is of course, like you said, it's a good way of promoting, but it's also a good way to get criticism as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you need, the way you handle people criticising your work can affect the way you are and the way you get like jobs and stuff, because obviously, you know, it stays online and stuff, and if you're, say, replying back to a hateful comment about your work, then it shows that you're not able to handle it, and they'll think you're hard to work with and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
And also again with stealing the work and stuff, social media is also very, because people can screenshot it, and it's hard to keep it as your own. That's why if you build up a portfolio in your business and just kind of like a style, then they'll know, you know. It's,
That you stand out.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add, Hannah?
health and safety.
You want to add anything?
With the social media, you can also like use that to build up a loyal fan base, which will get you commission like over and over again if you're
Mhm.
independent.
Definitely.
Yeah. What's brought about health and safety issues?
Let's
Tom?
talk about, no. Ooh, yeah. Sorry. You say.
Like, you have to make sure people can't copy your stuff, obviously with copyright, and you have to make sure people can't, like, about health and safety with design.
So like we can talk about like sort of risks, because if you're sat at
Yeah.
a desk for 10 hours a day,
Oh yeah,
you want to, yeah.
back pains,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to, like, have a walkabout or you get cramp and everything.
Mhm.
So you
And,
make sure you stay active.
Yeah, wrist pains and stuff too. I think if you're
Yeah.
on a mouse or doing like a design pad, your wrist is going to start aching
Mhm.
after a long day of working.
Yeah.
I think,
And
yeah.
I think with the whole, you know, with the health situation, that it's not as a big deal, obviously, because you are at home, there's not many kind of, you can't really go out and then something falls on you and stuff like that. It's not like that, like a building kind of job. It is quite sheltered, but at the same time, the damages to your eyes, your back, if you're saying, if you're staring at a screen for long periods of time, it will have an effect on you. They might not be life-changing, but still it can affect you
Like eye
in
strain.
possible work in the future if you're not careful. Now, working in the industry, you do have a responsibility to the clients and the public.
Definitely.
Do you think maybe with the whole, the client's always right, do you think that's kind of the case in the graphic design industry?
I suppose you've always got to come up with an idea. So, say a company's making a game, they obviously come up with the idea. The public
Mhm.
and clients don't come up with the idea, like, you know.
Yeah.
But I think it is important that the public do criticise and tell the game designers what they want and what they think they could do to make the game better. And most companies are really good at listening to them and fixing the issues.
Mhm.
So I think definitely take into consideration the public's views.
Yeah, and again, you have to be careful with the, you know, the moral issues and the considerations of people that can be offended by, say, if you have to be
Yeah.
careful with your work. Say if you're producing, say, a game, you have to be careful. Say if it's like a war game or a game in a different country, you have to be careful how you portray it, because that can offend a lot of people.
Yeah.
Say if you do it a certain way, or say make a racist remark without even noticing. Like, you have to look it over a lot and be careful the way you word things as well. Even in, especially in like logos and stuff, that you need to be careful that it's not the same as someone else's as well.
Yeah, or like
Like-
at least not resembling it.
Yeah, you have to be very careful with that, and you kind of have to look around to see other people's logos and stuff. Also, with the dealing with the client and stuff, you have to be more considerate to what they want, and ask them questions that are relevant to the thing. Obviously, you can be quite friendly, but you want to be portrayed as professional, don't you? So
Yeah.
you need to get like professional questions.
I think one thing that you've got to take into consideration, say you're doing character concept design and you're creating a character, what most companies do is they'll talk about when the game's loading up, for example, they'll have like a black screen with some white text saying any characters that resemble real people were not. It's basically telling us it's not based off that person.
Yeah.
If they resemble them, and it's just by coincidence. And that would be important. So say you've got a character which looks distinctly like you, and they've never seen you, and they could have but say they have seen you, and they've designed it off you, they would have to say that it's off you. But if it's just out of the blue, character looks like this, and that's how we made them, then
Yeah.
fair enough. That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and the same with that. If someone, say with the characters and stuff,
Yeah.
if what's it called? Again, you have to be careful with the characters. If they're portrayed in certain ways, you'd have to kind of get like a warning, like you said.
Yes.
So, because if like a trailer or a game designer or something, like if you were to say like a teaser trailer on social media, and it say if it had blood or violence in, you'd have to put a warning up, because again you could get complaints, or you maybe like an age rating on it, because you'll get big complaints from say parents or younger children who like have seen it and then told the parents, and then you'll get a bad reputation from that, from not kind of considering the
Yeah, definitely.
consequences of putting something like that. And with age restrictions and stuff, you can have that on, say, I know Facebook and like say
Yeah.
Instagram with the social media have like age restricted on it, and YouTube as well. So it does. There is methods to prevent that, but it's always good to put a warning so it doesn't happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that?
Yeah, exactly. Stop.